Cryptocurrency billionaire Sam Bankman-Fried has been found guilty on 7 counts of fraud and conspiracy in one of the biggest fraud cases in US history.
Air in the Bahamas was thick with salt and money. Sam Bankman-Fried sat in his penthouse, a king on a throne made of code and promises. It was early 2022. The world saw him as a genius, a visionary. He was the friendly face of crypto, the mop-haired kid in shorts and a t-shirt who was going to change finance forever. He spoke of saving the world, of effective altruism, of giving away billions. From his desk, he could see turquoise water and the vast digital empire he'd built. FTX was worth $32 billion. It felt untouchable. But beneath the surface, something was wrong, a quiet hum of unease. The numbers on the screen were just that, numbers, not real money in a real vault. FTX was a shell game played on a global scale. Sam, or SBF, kept playing, kept smiling for the cameras, kept talking to politicians and celebrities. The illusion was perfect, even he might have believed it, but the foundation was sand and the tide was turning. While one hand signed billion-dollar deals, the other moved money in the shadows. People trusted him, they gave him their money, they believed in the mission. Stadiums bore the FTX name. Super Bowl ads starred celebrities. It all looked legitimate. No one dared question the boy king. The story was too good to be true. But it wasn't true. The empire was a house of cards, built on borrowed funds and reckless gambles. The cracks were beginning to show. Soon the world would see the chaos and deception behind the curtain. The king was about to be dethroned. Sam Bankman-Fried didn't look like a tycoon. Son of Stanford law professors, MIT grad, brilliant with numbers. He worked at Jane Street Capital, mastering high-frequency trading. But he wanted more, and he wanted to do good. Effective altruism. Make as much money as possible, then give it away. In 2017, he started Alameda Research to exploit crypto market inefficiencies. SBF and his loyal friends worked, lived, and coded together, making huge sums and taking massive risks. Alameda was a black box, aggressive, opaque, the engine for everything to come. But SBF needed more fuel. He needed his own casino. In 2019, he launched FTX, a crypto exchange built by traders for traders. It was sleek, fast, and offered complex derivatives. It grew at breakneck speed. SBF presented himself as the responsible adult in crypto, talking regulation, meeting lawmakers, promising customer safety. He claimed FTX and Alameda were separate. This was a lie. The two were deeply intertwined, two sides of the same coin, both controlled by SBF. Alameda had special privileges on FTX, faster trades, more borrowing, immunity from liquidation. The line between them vanished. Alameda was a hole in FTX's bucket, a secret backdoor for customer money. The boy genius had built his machine. It was powerful, beautiful, and designed to break the most fundamental rule. You do not spend your customers' money. The world saw innovation. SBF saw opportunity. He was building an empire, but the foundation was already cracking. The machine was running hot, fueled by risk and secrecy. The stage was set for disaster, and no one was watching closely enough. The money poured in, a tidal wave. By 2022, FTX was valued at $32 billion, one of the world's largest crypto exchanges. The name was everywhere. Miami Heat's arena, MLB umpires' uniforms, Super Bowl ads. Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen became brand ambassadors, telling everyone FTX was safe. SBF was a media darling, on magazine covers, hailed as the next Warren Buffett. The messy hair, the cargo shorts, the beat-up Corolla, it was all part of the brand. He was the humble billionaire who played video games during interviews. SBF became one of the largest political donors in the US, buying influence and legitimacy. He testified before Congress, advocating for regulation that would benefit FTX. The public saw him as the good guy in crypto, humble, altruistic, trustworthy. Millions believed the story. They downloaded the app, deposited their savings, and trusted SBF with their futures. But behind the scenes, the mission, the man, and the company were all a carefully crafted illusion. The world was buying tickets for a voyage on a sinking ship. The higher FTX soared, the more fragile it became. The cracks were spreading, hidden beneath the glittering surface. The fall was coming. The beginning of the end came quietly, with an article. On November 2nd, 2022, CoinDesk published a leaked balance sheet from Alameda Research. The numbers were shocking. Alameda's assets were built on FTT, FTX's own token. FTT's value depended entirely on FTX's reputation, a house of cards on top of another house of cards. Alameda was using FTT as collateral to borrow billions. If FTT's price fell, it would trigger a death spiral. The report confirmed suspicions. The line between FTX and Alameda was non-existent. SBF's empire was balanced on the value of a token he created. The market began to stir. Dread crept in. SBF tried to downplay the news, but the damage was done. The secret was out. The king's castle was built on sand. Someone was about to test its strength. The first crack had appeared in the dam. The pressure was building. The flood was coming. The first big domino was Changpeng Zhao, CEO of Binance, FTX's biggest rival. On November 6th, CZ announced Binance would liquidate its FTT holdings. Panic erupted. FTT's price plummeted. A bank run began. Customers rushed to withdraw billions, but the money wasn't there. FTX froze. Fear turned to terror. SBF called CZ for help. Binance briefly agreed to buy FTX. Relief lasted less than a day. Binance saw the books and walked away. The issues were beyond our control or ability to help. The bailout was dead. SBF was alone. FTT was nearly worthless. The bank run was unstoppable. The empire crumbled in less than a week. The illusion shattered. The king had no clothes. The world watched as FTX collapsed in real time. Trust evaporated overnight. The reckoning had arrived. With nowhere left to turn, the truth spilled out. FTX couldn't honor withdrawals because the money was gone. At least $10 billion funneled to Alameda. SBF had used customer funds as his personal piggy bank. The promise of safety was a lie. SBF built a secret backdoor in FTX's code, letting Alameda borrow without limits or collateral. The effective altruism narrative was a smokescreen for one of the largest financial frauds in history. Regulators froze assets. Investigations began. Politicians distanced themselves. SBF tried to apologize on Twitter, blaming mistakes and poor oversight, but it wasn't a mistake, it was a deliberate choice. He had built a system to enable fraud and operated it for years. The lie was the story. The world finally saw the truth. On November 11th, 2022, FTX, Alameda, and affiliates filed for bankruptcy. SBF resigned. John J. Ray III took over, finding utter chaos. No records, no controls. Company funds spent on personal luxuries. In the chaos, hundreds of millions vanished in a mysterious hack. Insider or outsider, no one knew. SBF, hiding in his penthouse, gave a candid interview. The ethics were mostly a front. He admitted to playing the dumb game of saying the right thing so people liked him. The mask was off. The humble boy genius was a cynical creation, a fraud who knew he was a fraud. SBF was arrested, extradited, and charged. Millions lost everything: life savings, investments, hope. The crypto industry was shaken to its core. The story of FTX became a grim parable for the modern age. It was a somber reflection on the seductive promise of changing the world and the devastation when ethics are just another brand. The king's empire was gone, leaving only ghosts in the machine. The lesson trust, once broken, is almost impossible to rebuild, and in the end, the house of cards always falls.